Every night while you're asleep, something happens inside your skull that has nothing to do with dreaming. Your brain opens a drain. For years, scientists assumed the brain just didn't have a cleanup system, that unlike your liver or your lymph nodes, it had no way to flush out its own waste. That turned out to be wrong. It has one. It's called the glymphatic system, and it only turns on when you're deeply asleep. And in 2026, researchers finally answered the question everyone in the sleep and dementia field has been chasing for a decade. Exactly how much sleep do you need for this system to do its job? And what happens when it doesn't? The numbers surprised a lot of people, including me. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly where you stand and the two most common sleep habits that quietly shut this system down without you noticing. Here's the simplest way to think about it. Every organ in your body makes metabolic waste, leftover byproducts from cells doing their job. Most of your body clears this waste through the lymphatic system, a network of vessels that runs alongside your blood vessels like a drainage system. The brain doesn't have lymphatic vessels. For a long time, that made scientists think the brain just accumulated waste with no way out. Then, starting around 2012, researchers discovered something different. The brain has its own version, nicknamed the glymphatic system, a blend of glial, the support cells of the brain, and lymphatic. Instead of vessels, it uses fluid. Cerebrospinal fluid washes through the spaces between brain cells, picks up waste products, including a protein called beta amyloid, the same protein that clumps together in Alzheimer's disease, and carries it out of the brain entirely. Here's the part that matters for this video. This system is far more active during deep sleep than while you're awake. During the deepest stage of non-REM sleep, often called slow-wave sleep, the spaces between your brain cells actually widen, fluid moves more freely, and clearance ramps up dramatically. In other words, being awake is when your brain makes the mess. Deep sleep is when it cleans it up. If you interrupt or shorten the part of the night where deep sleep happens, you're not just feeling tired the next day. You may be leaving cleanup unfinished. This is where 2026 changed things. Researchers at York University pulled together data from 69 separate studies, covering close to 4.5 million people, and asked a very specific question. How do sleep duration, physical activity, and sitting time relate to your risk of developing dementia later in life? The sleep finding was precise. People who slept between 7 and 8 hours a night had the lowest dementia risk, not 6, not 9, 7 to 8. That range lines up with what we know about deep sleep architecture. It's roughly the amount of total sleep most adults need to get a full, uninterrupted cycle of slow-wave sleep, rather than cutting it short. Two other pieces from the same analysis are worth knowing. Sitting more than 8 hours a day was linked to meaningfully higher dementia risk, and getting less than 150 minutes of physical activity a week, that's about 20 minutes a day, was linked to higher risk too. None of these factors work in isolation. The researchers describe it as a combined movement and rest profile. How you move during the day and how you sleep at night appear to work together to support the blood vessels and inflammation levels in the brain, and most relevant here, the glymphatic clearance process specifically depends on deep, uninterrupted sleep. Worth being precise about what this research can and can't tell us. It's an association, not a randomized trial. It cannot prove that sleeping 7 to 8 hours causes lower dementia risk on its own. People who sleep well may also differ in other health habits. But the size of the analysis and how consistently the pattern shows up across so many separate studies makes it one of the stronger pieces of evidence we have connecting a specific, modifiable habit to dementia risk. Here's where most sleep advice stops with the number of hours. But a separate 2026 study published in the journal Neurology looked at something different. Not how long people slept, but how consistent their internal body clock was. Researchers tracked circadian rhythm strength in older adults. Essentially, how reliably someone's sleep-wake cycle followed a stable 24-hour pattern. People with the weakest, most fragmented circadian rhythms had more than double the risk of developing dementia compared to people with strong, stable rhythms. This matters because two people can both get 8 hours of sleep and be in very different positions. One sleeps 8 consistent hours starting around the same time every night. The other gets 8 hours, but it's fragmented, falling asleep at wildly different times, waking up repeatedly, sleeping in on weekends, and staying up late on weekdays. The clock, not just the total, appears to matter. There's also a newer thread of research on sleep apnea worth a quick mention, because it's common and often undiagnosed in this age group. A study published this year found that adults with untreated obstructive sleep apnea had measurably worse memory and cognitive performance than those without it. But when the apnea was treated, their brain testing results came back in line with people who never had it. If you snore heavily, wake up gasping, or your partner has mentioned you stop breathing at night, that's worth raising with a doctor. Not because it's rare, but because it's one of the few dementia risk factors here that has a direct, treatable fix. So, what do you actually do with this? First, protect the 7 to 8 hour window. Not as a nice to have, but as a specific target. Not 5 nights of 6 hours and one night of catching up. Consistency inside that range appears to matter as much as the total. Second, treat your wake up time as more important than your bedtime. A stable wake time, even on weekends, Boyed, is one of the simplest ways to strengthen circadian rhythm because it anchors the rest of your internal clock. Third, move during the day. The same research tied prolonged sitting and low activity to higher dementia risk alongside sleep. A short walk after meals or breaking up long sitting blocks isn't just about your waistline. It's connected to the same brain health pathway. Fourth, if you snore or wake up exhausted no matter how many hours you get, don't dismiss it as normal aging. Sleep apnea is common, often missed, and, unlike a lot of dementia risk factors, directly treatable. None of this requires supplements, biohacking gadgets, or a $5,000 wearable. It requires protecting a fairly ordinary window of consistent, deep sleep. Because during that window, your brain is doing maintenance work no pill currently replicates. Your brain isn't just resting while you sleep, it's running a cleanup crew. And the data now tells us almost exactly how long that crew needs to finish the job. If you want to go one step further, there's a growing body of research on a completely different sleep-linked risk factor that's affecting a lot of people over 40 without them realizing it. If this helped you understand your own sleep differently, subscribe. This channel breaks down the real science behind healthy aging without the hype.